Hi, my name is Colleen Flanagan. I am the host of Odd Talk, hashtag Odd Talk. It is a video podcast and chat from the Auditorium Theater. This week's guest, we're very honored to have Denise Santomauro. She administers our Admit One program. Denise, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk with you today.
And where are you self-isolating? Where are you at today?
I'm in Chicago. I'm in the North Center, and I'm actually in my home office. I have my own office at home, so I'm very fortunate to have
go. So what have you been doing? You're a very busy person. You only work part-time at the Auditorium Theater. You do many other things. What have you been keeping yourself busy?
Oh man. Well, I mean, working with the Auditorium has been really interesting, sort of reimagining things right now because of our current situation. So that's been I've been really busy with the work at the Auditorium, coming up with new things to consider now. And then, my husband is a very funny person, and he's been doing all kinds of things to keep me entertained. He put on a mustard costume the other day and created a mini golf course in our apartment. And
Wait, were those the same thing, the mustard costume and the mini golf? Or those two days?
I think that they go hand in hand.
I think they kind of do. I think they kind of do. I just didn't know, we might be here a long time. You might want to stretch it out a little. Mustard costume one day, mini golf the next day. But
good point. Yeah, I feel like because we both have theater backgrounds, we've got wigs, we've got costumes for days.
So we're here today to talk about Admit One. And I thought we would talk about the origins of Admit One, which I actually was around for back in the day. I think it was 2016. It might have been a little before that because I think we launched in 16.
Yeah.
But the idea was we have a very large theater, and a ton of our presenting shows did not fill up to 3,900 seat houses. They still sold thousands of tickets, but it's a very large house. Yeah. And I was saying to my friend, and it was Deb Clapp, who runs the League of Chicago Theaters. We were just talking over dinner one day, and I said, it's super frustrating, for artists, because the theater sometimes feels half full, although we can make it the energy come in front. But also, there's so many people who don't have access to the arts here in Chicago, right next to us. And, Chicago is a place where next door, there's somebody who doesn't have access to the arts, where you go all the time to see the theater. And so I thought, well, why can't we invite those people to come to the Auditorium and see some of our presented shows? It's good for us. The house is full. The artists like it. It's more energy. And then it's bringing people in who might not have the opportunity or even know that they wanted to go to the theater. And so that's sort of where it started. And then I brought it back to the office as an idea, and it was one of those true collaborations where creative engagement came involved. It was Kristen Hansel at the time, and Judy Green, our chief development officer, and it turned into Admit One. And I thought you could explain a little bit we're talking about, what is Admit One, and what do we do with that program?
Yeah, so Admit One is a program that's removing barriers so that community groups with limited resources have the opportunity to access the arts and to come see shows at our theater. And I think one of the things that's really awesome about Admit One, a lot of people have ticketing programs, and ticketing programs in and of themselves are incredible. Any offer is incredible, right? One of the things that I love about this program in particular, though, is that it goes a few steps beyond that. So the reason that there's an actual person like me who has a job to do this is because there's a lot of facets of this program that we recognize as barriers to the arts.
We discovered that very early on, is that it's not just, you can't just give free tickets away and expect people to come. There are other barriers, and transportation is one of them. Not feeling comfortable going to a theater is another one of those. And that's where creative engagement came in and immediately identified those and tried to solve those.
Yeah, there's this wonderful element to the program. We work, it's groups of 20 or more. that we're working with. And I really love that aspect of the program, and working with somebody in the community who understands their community, who knows their community, right? I don't know their community. I don't know what's best for their community. I don't know what they need, so being able to work with somebody in the community, I can say, you're the expert on your community. What does your community need? How can I help you fill that need? And we do that not only through the transportation element, but we do that through the workshop element. We build customized workshops that connect the show to some element in the community that they're trying to focus on. So that could be that you've got a community that's really focused on building their communication skills because they really have been struggling to do that. And so we'll build a workshop that takes an idea or element from the show and combines with that mission that they have to create a time where they can work on those skills and work on them with the inspiration from the theater coming in. Those workshops also provide an opportunity for groups to either process the show if they've already seen it, or learn a little bit more about the theater and what they're about to go see before they come see it. And so the fact that it's a group of people means they're not having to go alone, which I think that that's a huge factor, right? Like if you're like, am I going to see you on Friday? And then, it becomes this like community thing, and sort of behind the scenes, like one of the ways that I see this program is as a tool for building community and a tool for bringing communities together.
And that's why, so you started in this position as the administrator for Admit One. How long ago?
I am 2.5. Oh, wait, it's 2 years that I've been overseeing the program. Yeah.
And we immediately realized, like about a year into the program, people could apply. We could identify what made sense and try to match what they're looking for with the presented show that we're doing. But we realize that it's going to be so much more than that. And that is when you're talking about transportation and workshops, et cetera. So let's talk about applying for Admit One. So like, how does that start? How does a community group start the process?
It's super easy, actually. You go to our website, and if you go under creative engagement, the creative engagement page, you'll see community opportunities, and there'll be a page there for Admit One. And there's a link, and it's an online application. So you just fill everything out right there on the website. And when you click submit, it automatically sends to me. And then I review every application that comes in. And then usually I'm in contact with groups from there to be able to bring them in.
And what are you looking for in these applications? Like, it's not a very complicated application. Let's be clear about that. But what are you looking for?
So we want to know a little bit about what your group is. Why are you interested in this program? What about this program appeals to your particular group? We also, except for in middle of, right now, for an example, you won't see shows listed on there because of where we are in the season, but there's often the shows are listed there that are available. So finding out which shows you're available or what you're interested in and why you're interested in. If you have a particular connection to a show, having an understanding of that up front is really useful for us. And then just understanding, what it is about your community that is in need, so that we can have an understanding of if we're able to fulfill that need.
Once you decide you're going to ask this group to join us, what happens then?
So I usually am in contact with our group leaders and discuss, like, here's the show that I'm considering. Does that still work for you? And then we talk about the nature of those shows. That's one of my jobs, is sort of to stay up to date with what's happening in the theater, so that I can talk to these community groups about these shows. For example, our National Geographic Live series. I love that series. Love that series so much. But it's still like becoming a thing in Chicago. People are still learning about it. And so one of the things that I love to do is be like, okay, I know you weren't thinking about this show, but let me tell you about this incredible series that you can come see, and it's an opportunity also to hear about what unique things that they might be facing in their group. So for example, we've worked with organizations that are working with homeless populations. And what we found with a lot of these homeless populations is that coming to an evening show is not as viable for them. So they need a matinee performance. So, okay, let me look in my schedule of where I have a potential opportunity for you. So it's also looking at the particulars of that group to say, we recognize that your group is unique to itself. And so we want to create the best possible experience for your group and create an opportunity that will allow the most people to be able to come and access the arts. So let's find a good solution with what shows we have available.
And I think what's also different about our program is while a lot of kids and young people under 18 come to these performances, this is not student focused. And in fact, if you're a school, we offer our student matinees to school groups, but we don't offer this program to schools because we felt that we really wanted to make sure the adult population, which seems to get neglected a bit, has this access to the arts. And again, a lot of kids do come to the performances, a lot of families go, but it's not focused just on kids. And I think that's an important element.
Yeah, whenever I get something that seems connected to a school, I always have to dig a little deeper to see, because that is a real focus for us. You know, we do work with some after school kind of programs, but I love that about this program too. It's saying there is a larger need beyond when you're a child. You know, there's a lot of obvious need when you're a kid, and a lot of obvious financial constraints that families face to be able to do this, so it makes sense that we have offerings for youth already at the theater. And this provides an opportunity to recognize that there are a lot of adults out there who otherwise wouldn't have access to the arts. And, you know, if we're thinking about access and removing boundaries, we have to also consider the number of people who actually have real need. And it doesn't stop when you're a child. There are people who are adults who have real need, and people who are adults who have never had access to the arts. So it's not that they had access and now that they don't. They've never had it. They maybe never saw a show as a kid. So, and we experience that a lot. I hear from a lot of people who say, this is the first time I've ever been to a theater, and they're in their 70s. So, you know, me, that just like warms my heart every time, because I think that the arts should be for everyone for all of your life. So I just love this program so much.
And let's talk a little bit about the funding of the program. So the reason we brought our development director in is that we thought, you know, how can we raise money for this program? Because we can give free tickets away, and that's, you know, those seats a lot of times will go empty anyway. But we immediately realized that there are other barriers like transportation and these workshops. Food, we sometimes feed some of our groups before, and that costs money. And one of the things that we immediately did is, if you're on our website and you purchase a ticket to any of our shows, rentals, presented, whatever show, we add a little $5 that you can remove, but most people don't, that says, do you want to help somebody else come to the theater? And it's a $5 donation. And I will say the majority of our generous ticket buyers keep that on there, and that really helps fund the program.
There's also a lot of people who add more. We get a lot of people who add more money than that. And, you know, I think this is also one of the reasons I love this program, is that any person who has bought a ticket to see a show at the Auditorium in the last few years, anyone who's thinking about coming to see a show in our next season, you have a stake in this program. You are directly contributing with access to the arts. And it's just one little donation that you're making, but it is making a massive difference in the world. And I think that that's such a cool thing to consider, is that, you know, by buying a ticket to the Auditorium and saying, yeah, leave that $5 in there, you are allowing, you know, people from all of this city to come in. And, you know, I think that that's back to in my opinion, this program is a really great reflection of our tagline, Theater for the People. And I think the original idea behind create a space where all of Chicago could come together. And we're doing that with this program. We're making sure that we're standing by what we say with those things and actually creating those opportunities.
Denise, you're at almost every performance when there's an Admit One group coming. So you get to really know these folks. And we've had people come multiple times to different shows. So can you tell us some favorite groups that or stories that have come through the theater?
Oh man, there's so many. There's
Well, all
so
of them, all of them are your favorite, but
they're all
maybe
my
just some,
favorite.
they are, but just some fun stories, some interesting stories. I mean, that's what this is,
Yeah.
everybody has their story. They're going to watch another story on stage. And it's fascinating to hear how this moves so many people.
Well, I think one of the cool things that I think it's really hilarious that you can't you can't not be a people person and do this kind of work, do like arts acting work. Um, I cannot tell you the amount of hugs I get.
uh,
People see me
let's
and
hope those
they're
come
like,
back. Let's hope hugs come back.
I know. Like,
They
I'm
will,
thinking
they
every
will, they will.
single day. I was like,
They
I'm
will.
gonna hate to have to be like, I can't do. But I do. I
It's true.
get a lot of hugs in the
Yeah,
theater. I feel like I
yeah,
get hugs more than anything else in the theater, which is so great. You know, I mean, you
yeah.
have community members who will just they'll be looking for me in the theater and they'll see me and they'll go, and they just in for it. They just go for it. I remember after one
Uh,
show, I was outside. I usually go out and sort of check in on our transportation, our buses, make sure everybody's getting home okay. And I was talking with somebody. This person wasn't even on my radar, but one of our groups, the leader came up to me and she went, Denise, and just wrapped her on me and she said, that was incredible. That was amazing. Everyone had an amazing time. She was like, thank you so much. And I'm like, well, this is an interesting thing because most people don't get that kind of interaction at their
right,
job.
right. Wait, what was the show? What was the show?
Oh my gosh, it was this past season, and I want to say it was one of our dance shows. I think it was Ensemble Espanol.
Oh, that would totally make sense if it was
Yeah,
ensemble. Yeah,
yeah,
very
it was an
uplifting.
incredible show. It was beautiful. So, yeah, it was just. I think that there's a lot of that happens, and a lot of just excitement. I mean, I think one of the best parts of my job is I get to call people and say, "Hey, do you want this thing? Let me give you. Let me bring
Let
it
me
to
give
you."
you something. That's it.
Yeah,
Let me just give you this. That's got
I
to
think
be incredible.
it's so great, you know. And I think that there's just really, I love I love nights at the theater where I have a group of seniors who are coming in, and at the same time, there's this group that's working with young women who are coming in, and then this group over here that's working all with immigrants who are coming in. And so you've got this collection of people, and it's one of the coolest things I think about this program. And one of the
Yeah,
things I love is when I get to look around the theater and see generations and people from a variety of different backgrounds all melding together and know that this program helps make that happen. I think that's
yeah,
one of the coolest things.
yeah. And again, that goes back to theater for the people and the auditorium and who comes through our doors. Like it's incredible. So talk about a little bit about the different groups who have come to Admit One because it runs the gamut. It runs the gamut. So
It
I'd love
was,
to hear about some of them.
yeah, I mean, I can remember I had a group, a woman who basically, when we did Nightmare Before Christmas last year,
Okay.
she contacted me and was just like, I want something to get these babies off the street on Halloween and give them someplace to go. And so we
Oh,
brought her in, and it was this, you know, she had started her own nonprofit and wanted to bring these kids in. I think she was in Inglewood,
okay.
and you know, I have a group like that that's really grassroots, somebody who's doing community work on their street in their neighborhood, combined with major groups like the USO of Illinois,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and literally they came to the same show. So like
Right.
you're seeing this variety of groups. And I think that that's one of the cool things about this program too. You don't have to be, I had someone ask me once if they needed to submit their 501c3 status. And I was like, no,
No. Yeah.
don't worry about it. You're fine. You know, and that is, I think, something that's really cool about this program is that the person who wants to organize their everyone on their block to come see a show
Right.
has just as much of an opportunity to do that as somebody who's doing this as part of their job at a major national organization.
I think
Uh,
that's a huge, huge point, and that we should point that out is you do not have to be a nonprofit to apply for this.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. We've
That's
had individuals
big.
apply who are they literally are just, you know, I am in a senior center and I would love to, I've been to see live theater, but I know a lot of my, you know, people who are living around me haven't. Can I can I organize a group? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And I think that that's why having someone like in my position was so important, because the I try my best to customize the experience for each person, not just in the theater, but how we're talking about this. You know, I very often have groups who thought that they could organize 40 people to come, and now they can't. And so we start to think about, what is the idea of community? How can we expand how you're thinking about your community? Where you were just looking at this, but you've also mentioned this program to here. How about we bring these together, and then we can do a workshop between the two, so that we're like fostering this community amongst everything at your organization. So I think that that's a really awesome bit of this program, that you don't have to be a major organization to apply. You can be an individual who just thinks this would be really cool to the community.
I think that's great. What do you know, COVID-19 aside and what we're going through, you know, the theater will be open again. What do you think is next for Admit One? What would you like to see happen with the program?
So I would love to have the ability to do more work bringing some of these different groups together in a more cohesive way. We did this last season. We had an end of season event where we invited the group leaders from all of the different organizations that were a part of the program to the theater for a networking event, essentially. And we provided food, and then they all came and saw a show, and they were able to bring someone with them. And it just, in my mind, saw all of these connections. You know, you've got this community group over here that's doing something that really aligns with this community group over here. So why don't we bring those groups together so that they can work with each other?
Yeah.
And I would love to be able to expand that to the actual participants as well. So we have that event. I would love to do more of those kinds of events and be a community gathering space for these different communities we're working with, but also for the participants to be able to see each other. You know, you might have, the interesting thing about Chicago is that, you know, we can become so enclosed in our neighborhoods, and we forget that like 5 minutes away or 10 minutes away, potentially people that we could be interacting with that we're not even thinking about. So I would love to see a space where we could do that. I'm using this time to really think access in a bigger way too.
Sure.
And considering what is access and how do we expand our thinking on access, and how can we just continue to use this program to really address the issues around access in the arts.
So it's our 130th anniversary this year. And so we've been around a long time. And I always say this, we will be open again. But we've been asking everyone what their favorite memory is from the Auditorium Theater. And I was hoping you could share yours. And I always tell people they can have more than one, because it's really hard to pick sometimes.
Yeah, totally. I was going to be a rebel until we're here too.
Fair enough.
So my first one is actually with when we had Malpazzo and Hubbard last season. I don't know about you, Colleen, but totally sucked in.
It was one of my favorites.
And the energy in the room, you could tell everyone was just so sucked into that moment. And the piece ended, and there was like this collective intake of breath, and then the like room exploded. It was just, I still get chills thinking about it. So afterward, one of our groups came up, and the group leader was shaking her head. I never would have gone to that. Yeah, I couldn't get them into the initial show that they wanted to see. And I was like, okay, I know you want to go see Albanelli, which was happening a couple weeks later. And I said, but I can't get you into that, but I do have this other show. And it's a similar dance form. And I think it's going to be really interesting. I think it's going to be really cool. And she was like, oh, well, okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. So yes, let's do it. Right. And she looked stunned at the end. She was like, I cannot believe how incredible that was. I never would have thought to go to that show. And I just so appreciate you and this program for allowing us to see something that we never would have gone to see. And all of she had her group members behind her, and they all kind of looked dazed too. And they were like nodding along, and you could tell that they had this experience. And I think that that's one of the coolest things about this program, is that all I'm doing is bringing them in, but they're these amazing performances. They're having these experiences that are unlike things that they maybe would have gone to do and see otherwise. And that was really a cool moment to see that happen in real time. And like, I thought it was going to be a good show, but my mind was blown as well. So to be able to have that with them, I think was really a cool experience. The other is related to after the show. I get a lot of notes, sort of sharing the experience and what happened, share them out to the group. And one of my favorite notes that came and saw American Ballet Theater, Witch Cream, and the group is all made up of Holocaust survivors. And the group leader talked about how she was so thankful for the opportunity for that show in particular for her group, because she had a lot of people afterwards who just seemed lighter and seemed younger. And she mentioned in her note, I'm going to tear up to see what thinking about it. She mentioned in her note that these individuals, they had their childhood stolen from them. And this show gave them a little peek back into that. It gave them a little piece of their childhood back. And it warmed my heart to know that the theater provides this program to be able to provide those experiences.
That's a wonderful story. Thank you, Denise. Thank you for all the work you do for Admit One and for the Auditorium Theater. We really appreciate it.
Apply today.
Apply today. We don't have shows yet, but we will. So you can still apply. All right.
Send me some information and I'll call you. Or donate today. If you don't have a community group, we are always accepting donations. So please donate today.
Thank you. Thanks, Denise.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for another edition of Odd Talk, #OddTalk. You can find us on Facebook Live. We also post this on YouTube and also on podcasts, SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. Every Wednesday, 6 o'clock is when we post these. We also do it at home with the Auditorium Theater every Sunday at 6 p.m. This Sunday at 6 p.m., we have Trinity Irish Dance Company. They were one of our last performances on February 29th. We did 2 performances, and they're going to do an at-home performance this Sunday at 6 p.m. Hoping everyone stays safe and healthy. Thank you so much.